Brilliance Audio presents In a Yellow Wood by Gore Vidal, performed by Pete Simonelli. Robert Holton removed several dark hairs from his comb and wondered if his hairline was receding. He squinted for a moment at himself in the mirror and decided that he was not losing his hair. Not yet, anyway. Then he sat down on the edge of the bed and put on his shoes. He started to tie the laces of the left shoe when he began to think of his dream. He had many dreams, of flying through the air, of walking in empty rooms, of all the standard things that psychiatrists like to hear about. Unfortunately, in the morning, he could seldom recall what he had dreamed the night before. He would remember the sensation of the dream, but nothing else. He would remember if it had been good or bad, but that was all. Last night his dream had been unpleasant, and something in the room had suddenly recalled it to him. Robert Holton frowned and tried to remember. Was it the carpet? He had looked at the carpet while tying his shoe. He looked at it now. The carpet was dusty and uninteresting. It was a solid brown color, the same carpet that covered the floor of every hotel room in New York. No, the carpet was not connected with his dream. He had been standing at the dresser while combing his hair. He looked at the dresser. Plain dull wood with dull scrollwork about the mirror. On the dresser was a dingy white cloth, and on the cloth were a pair of brushes, his wallet, and a collection of small things. Nothing suggested an unpleasant dream. The morning light glowed yellowly through the window shade. There was a band of brighter light between the bottom of the shade and the window sill, and here the daylight shone into the square room where Robert Holton lived. He looked at the sunlight a moment and forgot his dream. He glanced at his watch. 15 minutes to 8. He had to be at the office at 8:30. Quickly he tied his shoes and got to his feet. He searched through the bureau drawers for a shirt. He found a white one and put it on. Before the war he had worn colored shirts, but now plain white ones seemed more sound. And then it was a good idea not to be too vivid when you worked for a brokerage house. His tie was pretty, though. It was a striped one, blue and white. Not a dark, sullen blue, but a light and casual blue. As he knotted his tie in front of the mirror, he noticed his face was pale. He was always pale in the morning, of course. Still, he looked unhealthy in the city. This morning he looked paler than usual. There were no pouches under his eyes, though, and he was glad of that. Robert Holton looked younger than 26. His features were boyish and undistinguished, and certain women had said that he was handsome. Robert Holton had looked well in uniform. He put on his trousers and tightened the belt. Robert Holton, though he had never been much of an athlete, had a good build. Sitting at desks, however, would ruin it sooner or later, and the thought made him sad. There was nothing he could do, of course, for he would always sit at desks. He picked up his coat from the chair where he had hung it the night before and put it on. He posed for a moment in front of the mirror. Perhaps he was not handsome, but he was nicer looking than a great many people, and it is better to be nicer looking than a great many people than to be unusually handsome. Robert Holton turned from the window and went into the bathroom. His watch was on the tile floor beside the bathtub, where he had left it the night before. He set the watch by his alarm clock. Again, he tried to recall his dream. On the wall there was a picture of some apples on a table. A Frenchman had painted the picture 20 years before. It had been reproduced, and the hotel had bought several copies because they were cheap and because the manager's wife had thought the picture pleasant. Robert Holton liked the picture. It seemed to suggest his dream to him more than anything else in the room. He studied the picture, but he could not remember the dream. The picture only made him uneasy. He looked away. He went to the closet and took out his trench coat. He had bought it when he became a lieutenant 3 years before. It was almost 8 o'clock now. Robert Holton opened the door of his room and stepped out into the corridor. There was a difference in smell. The corridor smelled old and dusty, as though no one had walked down it in years. Robert Holton, in the 1 year he had lived in this hotel, had never seen anyone else come out of a room.